Story 1. In the ancient city of Pylos, nestled by the turquoise waters of the Aegean Sea, lived a philosopher named Lysander. He was known throughout the land not for his wealth or his power, but for his profound wisdom and simple way of living. People from far and wide would come to seek his counsel, for Lysander lived by a unique creed. Those who want the fewest things are nearest to the gods. Lysander's home was a modest stone cottage on the outskirts of the city. His garden, filled with fragrant herbs and colorful flowers, was his sanctuary. He spent his days tending to the plants, teaching the young, and contemplating the mysteries of life. Unlike the opulent homes of Pylos' wealthy merchants and noblemen, Lysander's abode was free of luxuries. He owned only what he needed: a simple bed, a few utensils, and a collection of scrolls filled with ancient wisdom. One day, a young prince named Demetrius arrived at Lysander's door. The prince was draped in fine silks and adorned with gold, but his eyes were filled with sorrow. He had everything one could desire, yet he was deeply unhappy. "Lysander," Demetrius began, "I have heard of your wisdom and your contentment. I come to you with a heavy heart, for I am plagued by an unending desire for more. No matter how much I acquire, it never seems enough. I seek your guidance to find peace and true happiness." Lysander welcomed the prince into his humble home and offered him a seat in the garden. They sat under the shade of an ancient olive tree, its branches whispering softly in the breeze. "Prince Demetrius," Lysander said gently, "the gods themselves live in harmony not because they have everything, but because they want for nothing. The more we desire, the farther we drift from inner peace. True happiness comes not from possessing many things, but from needing few." Demetrius listened intently, but he struggled to grasp the concept. But how can one live without desire? It is our desires that drive us to achieve and to grow. Desires can be both a fire that warms and a fire that consumes, Lysander replied. The key is to balance your needs with your wants. Reflect on what truly matters. Is it the gold and jewels, or the love and wisdom you share with others? For the next several days, Demetrius stayed with Lysander, helping him in the garden and learning the ways of a simpler life. He felt a profound sense of peace growing within him, something he had never experienced in his opulent palace. As he worked, he realized that the beauty of life lay in the small, everyday moments. The sun rising over the hills, the laughter of children, the serenity of the garden. Before returning to the palace, Demetrius thanked Lysander. "You have shown me a new path. I will strive to live by your creed and find happiness in simplicity." Years passed, and Demetrius became a wise and beloved ruler. He transformed his kingdom not through grand conquests, but through acts of kindness and wisdom. He taught his people the value of simplicity and the joy of needing little. His reign brought prosperity and peace, and the people of Pylos flourished. Lysander continued his quiet life, content in his garden, knowing that his wisdom had touched the hearts of many. His words echoed through the ages, reminding everyone that those who want the fewest things are indeed nearest to the gods. And so, the legacy of Lysander and Demetrius lived on, a testament to the profound truth that true happiness lies not in the abundance of possessions, but in the richness of the soul. Story 2. In a small village nestled at the foot of a towering mountain, there lived a humble man named Kai. Kai was known throughout the village for his simple way of life and his unwavering contentment with the few possessions he owned. While others in the village spent their days chasing after wealth and material goods, Kai was content to tend to his small garden and spend his evenings gazing up at the stars. One day, as Kai was walking through the village market, he overheard a group of merchants discussing the latest fashions and trends in the city. They spoke excitedly about the newest gadgets and gizmos that were sweeping the nation, and Kai couldn't help but feel a sense of curiosity stirring within him. He had always been content with his simple way of life, but he couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to possess some of these modern luxuries. As he wandered back to his small cottage, Kai found himself growing more and more restless. He looked around at his modest belongings, a small bed, a few pots and pans, and a collection of well-loved books, and suddenly they felt inadequate. For the first time in his life, Kai felt a pang of discontentment gnawing at his heart. Determined to rid himself of this feeling, Kai decided to embark on a journey to the nearby city in search of the latest gadgets and gizmos that had captured his interest. As he wandered through the bustling streets, he was bombarded with a dizzying array of sights and sounds, bright lights, loud music, and the constant chatter of vendors trying to sell their wares. Kai found himself drawn to a shop filled with the latest technological gadgets. He marveled at the sleek smartphones, the high-definition televisions, and the state-of-the-art kitchen appliances that lined the shelves. Without hesitation, Kai began to fill his arms with all manner of gadgets, eager to bring them back to his humble cottage. As Kai made his way back to the village, burdened with his newfound possessions, he couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that had settled in his heart. The gadgets he carried seemed to mock him, their shiny surfaces reflecting his own sense of dissatisfaction back at him. Upon returning to his cottage, Kai set about arranging his new possessions in his home. But no matter how he tried to make them fit, they seemed out of place in the simple, rustic surroundings. As he sat amongst the clutter of gadgets, Kai realized that he had strayed far from the simple way of life that had brought him so much peace and contentment. In a moment of clarity, Kai decided to rid himself of the gadgets that had brought him nothing but unrest. He packed them up in a cart and set off towards the city, determined to return them to the shop from which he had purchased them. As he walked, Kai felt a weight lifting from his shoulders with each step. The burden of material possessions seemed to fall away, leaving him feeling light and free. By the time he reached the city, Kai knew that he had made the right decision. Returning to the village, Kai felt a sense of peace settling over him once more. He tended to his garden, watched the stars above, and felt a deep connection to the world around him. In that moment, Kai realized that those who want the fewest things are indeed nearest to the gods, for true contentment can only be found in simplicity and peace of mind. Story 3. In the tranquil village of Serenity Springs, there lived a man named Gideon who was known throughout the land for his simple and humble lifestyle. Gideon was a man of few possessions, preferring to live off the land and only own the bare necessities. While some viewed him as strange or even foolish for his lack of material wealth, others saw him as a wise and content soul who was closest to the gods. Gideon's small cottage was tucked away in the forest, surrounded by tall trees and chirping birds. In the mornings, he would wake with the sun, greeting the new day with a sense of peace and gratitude. His home was sparsely furnished, with only a few chairs, a wooden table, and a bed made of straw. But to Gideon, these simple items were all he needed to live a fulfilling life. As the villagers passed by Gideon's cottage, they would often stop and marvel at his contentment. Some would ask him why he chose to live in such a modest manner, to which he would reply with a smile, "Those who want the fewest things are nearest to the gods." He explained that by letting go of material desires, he was able to connect more deeply with the world around him and appreciate the simple pleasures of life. Gideon spent his days tending to his garden, growing an abundance of fruits and vegetables that sustained him throughout the year. He would often share his harvest with his neighbors, spreading joy and abundance wherever he went. His generosity and wisdom made him a beloved figure in the village, and many would come to him for advice and guidance. One day, a wealthy merchant named Lucius came to Serenity Springs, seeking refuge from the chaos of the city. He had heard tales of Gideon's simple way of life and was curious to learn more. Lucius had amassed great wealth, but he found himself constantly yearning for more, never truly satisfied with what he had. Lucius approached Gideon's cottage and knocked on the door. Gideon welcomed him warmly and invited him to sit by the fire. As they sat together, Lucius shared his troubles, confessing that despite his riches, he felt a deep emptiness inside. "Gideon," Lucius said, "I have everything I could ever want, yet I feel unfulfilled. How is it that you, with so little, are so content and at peace?" Gideon listened thoughtfully before replying, "Lucius, true happiness does not come from the accumulation of material possessions. It comes from within. By wanting less, we free ourselves from the constant pursuit of more and find contentment in the present moment. When we let go of our desires, we open ourselves to the beauty and wonder of the world around us." Lucius pondered Gideon's words, realizing the truth in them. He decided to spend some time in Serenity Springs, living simply and learning from Gideon's example. Over the weeks that followed, Lucius began to feel a shift within himself. The constant yearning for more began to fade, replaced by a sense of peace and fulfillment he had never known. When the time came for Lucius to return to the city, he did so with a newfound sense of purpose. He no longer felt the need to amass more wealth, but instead focused on sharing his abundance with others and living a life of simplicity and gratitude. Gideon's wisdom had touched Lucius deeply, and he carried the lesson with him for the rest of his life. The village of Serenity Springs continued to thrive, guided by the simple truth that those who want the fewest things are nearest to the gods. And Gideon, the humble man who had lived his life with grace and simplicity, remained a beacon of wisdom and contentment for all who sought a deeper connection to the world and to the divine. Those who want the fewest things are nearest to the gods. In a world increasingly driven by consumerism and the relentless pursuit of material wealth, the ancient wisdom that those who want the fewest things are nearest to the gods resonates with profound relevance. This maxim, attributed to the simplicity and philosophical insights of ancient thinkers, suggests that true happiness and spiritual fulfillment come not from acquiring more, but from needing less. The essence of this philosophy can be explored through the lenses of historical context, psychological well-being, and ethical living. Historical context and philosophical roots. The idea that minimal desires bring one closer to divine or enlightened states is rooted in various ancient traditions. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Socrates and Diogenes championed simplicity. Socrates famously stated, "He is richest who is content with the least, for content is the wealth of nature." Diogenes, a Cynic philosopher, lived in a large ceramic jar and owned virtually nothing, yet was known for his wit and wisdom. Similarly, in Eastern philosophy, figures like Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, renounced his royal privileges to seek enlightenment through a life of minimalism and meditation. These philosophical traditions emphasize that material possessions and excessive desires create distractions and dependencies that hinder spiritual growth and self-realization. The gods, or the enlightened beings, are often depicted as entities free from worldly attachments, embodying perfect contentment and harmony with the universe. Therefore, by minimizing desires, one can aspire to a state of inner peace and closeness to the divine. Psychological well-being and happiness. Modern psychology supports the notion that fewer material desires contribute to greater happiness and well-being. Studies have shown that beyond a certain point, increases in income and material wealth do not correlate with increased happiness. This phenomenon, known as the Easterlin paradox, suggests that once basic needs are met, additional wealth contributes little to overall happiness. Instead, the pursuit of more can lead to stress, anxiety, and a perpetual state of dissatisfaction. Minimalism, a lifestyle choice that encourages reducing physical possessions and focusing on what truly matters, has gained popularity as a means to achieve greater mental clarity and emotional well-being. Minimalists report feeling less overwhelmed, more focused, and more appreciative of the simple joys in life. By wanting fewer things, they free themselves from the constant pressure of consumerism and the comparison trap, which often leads to feelings of inadequacy and unhappiness. Ethical living and environmental impact. Living with fewer desires is also an ethical stance that addresses the environmental and social consequences of overconsumption. The relentless pursuit of material goods drives excessive production and consumption, leading to resource depletion, environmental degradation, and significant carbon footprints. By adopting a minimalist lifestyle, individuals can reduce their environmental impact and contribute to a more sustainable future. Moreover, ethical considerations extend to the global workforce. The demand for cheap, disposable goods often results in exploitative labor practices and poor working conditions in developing countries. By choosing to consume less and more mindfully, individuals can help reduce the demand for such exploitative practices and promote fairer, more equitable economic systems. Practical applications and societal benefits. Adopting the philosophy that fewer desires lead to a more fulfilling life can have practical applications and broad societal benefits. On an individual level, it encourages mindfulness and gratitude. Practicing mindfulness helps individuals become more aware of their true needs versus fleeting wants, fostering a deeper appreciation for what they already have. On a societal level, a shift towards valuing simplicity over material excess could lead to more equitable distribution of resources. Societies that prioritize collective well-being over individual wealth accumulation tend to have lower levels of inequality and higher levels of overall happiness and health. Examples can be seen in Scandinavian countries, where social policies aim to ensure that basic needs are met for all citizens, contributing to higher levels of life satisfaction and well-being. Conclusion. The ancient wisdom that those who want the fewest things are nearest to the gods offers a timeless antidote to the modern malaise of overconsumption and materialism. By embracing simplicity and minimizing desires, individuals can achieve greater psychological well-being, live more ethically, and contribute to a more sustainable and equitable world. This philosophy invites a return to the essential, a focus on inner contentment rather than external accumulation. In doing so, it aligns individuals more closely with the divine qualities of peace, contentment, and harmony, offering a path to a richer, more meaningful life.